Alright guys, listen carefully, because what you're about to see is exactly how a simple situation turns into a complete abuse of authority. At this moment, an individual stands inside a petrol station, calmly trying to resolve a payment using a £20 coin issued by the Royal Mint. Legal tender, legitimate money. But instead of logic, instead of basic understanding, staff refuse it and escalate things by calling the police. Now here's where things start to go sideways. This should have been a civil matter, simple disagreement, nothing more. But the moment officers arrive, everything changes. Instead of calming the situation, they begin pushing it toward confrontation. Questions start flying, pressure builds, and already you can feel it. This isn't about solving a problem anymore. This is about control. And once that shift happens, everything else starts to fall apart fast.
Pound coin.
Never seen them in my life.
So it's from the Royal Mint, so the same place that all legal tender comes from.
Have you got any other means of payment at the minute?
I don't know. Can I ask why you didn't tell me before you started recording?
So when we go to any incident, our tour of duty and our police protocol is to video every incident we go to achieve the best evidence.
But you've got to notify the person at the first available opportunity.
No, we don't.
You do?
Have you got that from somewhere? Have you read that up somewhere? Or?
Yes, your policy. Yeah.
Well, at the minute, we're obviously videoing everything because we've been called to an incident. Immediate response where there's some ongoing issue with payment, whether it's a domestic...
999?
Well, that's what's coming as, yeah.
Wow.
Well, we just didn't know what was happening. There was an altercation in the shop, so we've arrived on that instance. Are you going to give me your name?
I'm not, no.
Right, okay. Is there a reason for that?
Because it's a civil matter, and it's not something that the police can get involved in.
To a degree, you're right. It is a civil matter. We can deal with it a different way, but obviously, ultimately, you haven't paid for your fuel.
Now watch this closely, because this is where the cracks start showing. The officer arrives and immediately begins recording, but fails to inform the individual. When questioned, she flat out denies any obligation to declare it. That's a serious problem. Transparency isn't optional, it's required. Then it gets worse. She demands identification in what is clearly a civil dispute. No crime, no offense, yet she pushes as if she has authority she simply does not have. This is where knowledge of the law should guide actions, but instead, we see confusion or outright disregard. The individual stands firm, calmly explaining his rights, while the officer continues pressing forward. This isn't policing anymore. This is improvisation. And when officers start making it up as they go, that's when situations spiral out of control.
But they're not accepting that money.
But that's up to them to accept it. If they decline...
They've obviously run the post office and they've declined that. Ultimately, it's a civil issue, but if you're not willing to give us your details, then how do we know that you're going to resolve the civil issue at a later date? If you're happy to give us your details, then we can look at the civil issue at a later date.
But that's a civil issue, that's nothing for the police to get involved in.
But we don't know your details, do we? So you could technically escape from here and never come back and never deal with that issue, then you'd be circulated as wanted for that, won't you, for making off without payment?
That's not a police issue at the minute.
It is.
It's
not a police issue because you've not paid for fuel. So there's still an offence there of that you've not paid for your fuel.
But I have paid. I've gave them.
But you've gave them this coin, yeah, which ultimately they've spoke to the post office and they've decided that it's not a reasonable amount of payment for your fuel. So at the minute we're sort of hands are tied, agree with you on a certain instance of that, but we still need a solution today whether we take your details and we deal with it at a later date.
Alright, now things really start escalating. A second officer steps in, and instead of fixing the situation, she makes it worse. Almost immediately, she begins threatening arrest for making off without payment. But here's the reality. He hasn't left. He's still inside. He's still engaging. He's already attempted to pay. So where exactly is a crime? It doesn't exist. But instead of stepping back and reassessing, they double down. They create a scenario that hasn't happened and treat it like it already has. That's not enforcement. That's assumption. The entire argument now rests on a hypothetical situation, not actual facts. And this is where it becomes dangerous. Because once officers stop reacting to reality and start reacting to imagination, every decision that follows becomes unstable, unjustified, and reckless.
He said that it doesn't really exist, you can't pay with that. He obviously won't give us our details. I've explained to him to a degree it's a civil matter. However, if he does make off and he doesn't give us our details, we're struggling for any sort of civil issue at a later date. Any details and making off without payment, So I've explained if he does give us his details and we know where he is and we can contact him at a later date, hopefully this issue can get resolved. He's obviously not really
can't
wanting to do that at the minute.
Because it's a civil issue and it's nothing for the police to get involved
But
in.
you're still going to make off, aren't you? Technically without payment, but if we can get your details...
But I have paid.
But you haven't...
And it is their policy to accept the £20 coin.
Has he
paid?
paid?
No, he hasn't.
Right, if you haven't paid, and if you walk out the door now...
They've still got the money though.
Just let me finish. If you walk out that door now, you are liable for an arrest because we don't have your details.
But you don't need them.
But I do.
Because it's a civil issue.
But it's not, because a make off without payment is then a police matter.
Let's break this down even further. The officers continue insisting that if he leaves, it becomes a criminal matter, but he hasn't left. They ignore available alternatives, like verifying details through his vehicle outside. Instead, they keep pushing for identification they have no legal right to demand. Then comes another critical moment. The officer admits she doesn't even understand the £20 coin. Think about that. She's threatening arrest over something she openly admits she doesn't recognize. That's not just ignorance, that's negligence. The individual even explains that the coin is valid legal tender, issued officially. Still, they refuse to accept it. At this point, it's no longer about the payment. It's about ego, control, and forcing compliance. And when authority is driven by ego instead of law, the outcome is almost always the same.
Out that door now, it is. If you walk out that door now, you'll be getting arrested for make off without payment.
But there is an agreement with BP that the coin can be used.
Is there any other way that you can pay? Because we're going to sit here for hours arguing. I've been quite respectful to you. I appreciate you have to a degree, and I appreciate that from yourself. You haven't been argumentative with me, and I appreciate that you've been a normal human being. However, we need
I don't intend to. No,
I appreciate that.
If you can pay for the fuel now by other means, then that's fair enough. It'll be the end of the matter.
Or if you can give us your details, and we can deal with it at a slower time, we can offer you that. But if you're not willing to do either any, then we're struggling with what we have left to do.
Because we can't let you walk out that door without paying. But
we don't know where you live. You might not even be from around here. I'm not saying you are, but you know what I mean. We have people where they'll make off and then they won't give us our details, and then we're going to struggle. I'm still going to have that £20 of fuel, unfortunately, with this BP garage outstanding.
Which car is it?
But I have paid for the fuel.
But you haven't paid for the fuel. Which one?
Right, we're going round in circles, aren't we?
We are, unfortunately, yeah. We've agreed, we've reasoned with you now, and we've tried to say that if you give us your details, just tell you where you live, we'll deal with it slow time. However, you then leave, you don't have your details, you don't know where you live, you could live in London for all we know, and then there's still this making off without payment because they will not accept this as payment.
But I don't have to identify for a civil issue.
It technically isn't a civil issue though, is it, when you leave and you don't pay? You haven't paid for your fuel. We've got the payment here, which isn't acceptable, so really you haven't paid.
And here it is, the breaking point. Despite everything, despite the fact that he never left, never attempted to leave, and clearly stated his position, the officers move in for an arrest. Making off without payment, they say, while he's literally standing inside the store. Let that sink in. The very definition of the offense requires leaving the scene. That never happened, yet they proceed anyway. This isn't just a mistake. This is a complete collapse of lawful reasoning. The individual remains calm, compliant, and clear, but it doesn't matter. The decision has already been made. And once that happens, logic is out the window. What should have ended as a simple disagreement is now a wrongful arrest. This is the moment where poor judgment turns into legal liability.
So I've handed the coin over, right. So I haven't got that in my possession, and I've contacted BP head office before coming here.
Right, and was that today then, or?
No.
So when was that then? So you've contacted BP head office before you've come in?
Correct.
Right, so did you contact them today, or was it yesterday or last week, or?
It's not up to me to say that.
How's it money?
Do you understand what the £20 coin is?
No, that's why I'm confused.
Well, why are you threatening me for arrest then, if you don't know?
Because it's not money.
It is.
Right. We'll agree to disagree.
You don't know that. It is. It's legal tender, the same as a £20 note and a £10 note.
Right, and who did you speak to from the BP garage, the manager?
It's a Royal Mint who issued that £20 coin.
Right. Okay.
So it's the same money as any other money.
If you get someone on the phone to me who you've spoken to earlier, then we could kind of end the matter here, can't we?
Well, if it's a civil issue, I don't need to assist you.
But at the minute we don't know it's a civil matter.
But I don't need to assist you in a civil issue.
But you do, because it then turns into a police matter because we don't know that coin.
Now fast forward, and this is where reality catches up. The case goes to court, and the outcome speaks volumes. Nearly £4,000 paid out in compensation. Not because of generosity, but because the position was indefensible. The law didn't support their actions, and they knew it. But here's the part that hits hardest. No apology. Not a single word. Taxpayer money pays a price, but accountability? Completely absent. And that's the bigger issue. This wasn't just about a coin. It was about a mindset where authority overrides understanding and intimidation replaces professionalism. If something this small can spiral this far, imagine the bigger picture. This isn't policing. It's pressure, control, and failure to apply the law correctly. And that's exactly why cases like this matter. Because if it can happen here, it can happen anywhere.
Details, and you're going to walk out that door, and it's technically a failure to pay.
But then it'll be a civil. But then I'll sue you.
Well, that's fine. If you want to sue us, that's fine.
Unlawful arrest.
Like I said, we've been honest with you, and out in terms of which way we can go. The staff here have been very honest. Okay, and all I'm saying is, if you get the person on the phone who you spoke to earlier with the agreement, then that could be the end of the matter. But as far as I do, then technically, if you walk out the door, there's going to be a make without payment.
He's already accepted to take it.
You haven't accepted to take it. No, haven't accepted to take it. You walk out that door, becomes a criminal matter, and you get arrested for make off without payment.
You give us your details.
You're refusing to give us your details, and we don't know that vehicle is yours because you're not.
But I've told you.
Is it urgent?
That he said he would take the coin.
But he isn't.
If I take my mask off.
Right. Well, I wasn't here for that, so we have no witnesses, unfortunately, other than you and him. Right now, I can't view that.
Body camera.
But right now, I can't view that. At the end of the day, you've come in, you've paid for, you've got your fuel, you've come in. This isn't a payable matter. Once you leave, we've offered you to give us your details and deal with it that way. For all I know, that vehicle could be registered to somebody else and lived in London. And how are we ever going to trace you?
But I don't need to assist you.
The situation, it is making off without payment. I can't be any more reasonable with you and give you some sort of options that we can go.
But I don't need to assist you.
Are you offering to give
because
the
you're
staff,
wrong.
not myself, not my colleague, the staff your name and contact number?
No.
Right, so we have one option, but two will lock you up then.
Well, I've got a civil agreement in the background.
You can prove that at court. Prove that at court.
That's fine. You can prove that at court.
Right. Well, this moment in time, you're currently under arrest for making off without payment. You don't have to say anything.
But I haven't made off.
We don't mention one question from the later line. Or anything you do is make a given evidence.
But I haven't made off though.
For your arrest as reported in fact investigation. Okay.
But I haven't made off.
You're under caution as well.
And due to the fact that you failed to provide details.
But I haven't made off.
Failed to provide details. Yeah.
But I haven't made off.
Right. Are we going to go calmly? Are we going to go quietly?
We would go calmly all the time.
Okay. Well, do you want to walk with us then?
Of course.
Thank you. Just come with me, sir, please. Have you got anything in your pockets that's going to harm me or you? Just take them out. It's just a question we ask everybody.
Can we just take your camera off as well, please?
Walked out of those gates after being falsely arrested for using a £20 coin. The Chief Constable has paid out £4,000 in compensation, but unfortunately he did not apologise at any point, even taking him to court. He went all the way to court, we had the hearing date, and then the Chief Constable saw some sense and paid £4,000 in compensation, but no apology.